Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Doyle. This is the Verdigris Table. Dolly's chilling down here, and we've been talking about minigames. I've been thinking a lot lately about how we can use subsystems and minigames to spice up our tabletop role-playing game experience. So that's what we're talking about in this video. Baseline Dungeons & Dragons is already a bit of a pick and mix with optional rules from the DMG, not to mention Xanathars and Tasha, and now all this new, UA playtest material. And don't forget the ever-expanding galaxy of third-party supplements, plus whatever you and your friends may have homebrewed around the table. Though it's a bit more developed, you could say the same things about Pathfinder, which is also in the midst of a big revision process. As it stands now, the robust downtime and exploration rules I see getting treated as optional by a lot of 5e transplants, though I really loved them and will likely take them with me wherever my table's going next. And the OGL diaspora sent a lot of us looking for what else is out there and inspired a bunch of new innovative takes like Shadow Dark and Dungeon Coach's newness, which is in alpha and has some really great ideas in it. I really want to sink my teeth into DC20 before I talk more about it, but let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in, and I'll bump it up the list. In the meantime, links in the description to Dungeon Coach's new system and everything else we're going to mention in this one. There's going to be a lot of resources down there this time, so yeah, open up that description. Because we're in a golden age right now. Don't let the naysayers getting doom scroller clicks or the actions of one big corporation make you feel otherwise. And with this Renaissance level flowering of all these new games and material occurring, it's a good idea for game masters to take a step back and realize we can cross pollinate. We don't have to adapt an all or nothing attitude here. We can embrace the DIY roots of this hobby and mix and match to our heart's content. Now, I'm big on getting player buy-in and consent, of course, but if you are the game master, you are able to try new things. And if players want to do things differently, then they can think about running the game and giving us a break, right? Whether we are trying to test out and select and integrate the perfect set of subsystems and house rules to create the one TTRPG to rule them all, or we're just looking for ways to change things up and keep ourselves and our players engaged with novelty and fun, I believe thinking in terms of mini games is a great way to fold new ideas into the existing rule set that everybody is already used to. Bob Worldbuilder just did a video on his lockpicking homebrew minigame rule set, which you could easily drag and drop into your game as a way to make things work at your table, or you could use it for one session and have a particular door or dungeon operating differently. It can be a nice way to raise the stakes, emphasize the importance of this particular challenge, and hey, if everybody likes it, well then yeah, maybe we always do it this way, and if not, no big deal. We tried it the once. Now you can go nuts with this at the other end of the spectrum. Zach Speaks Giant just teamed up with some familiar faces to create a freaking gauntlet of mini games to run a game without dice. It might be a little more than what most of us are looking for in our home games, but it's definitely a fun watch and can really help open up your mind to what is even possible. Another minigame slash subsystem I personally will be adding to my home game is Toolcraft by Chris and Steven over at Dumpstat Adventures. It puts all of those kits in baseline 5e to use. A lot of folks out there have found a real lack in the crafting rules and have wondered why these tools are taking up space on their character sheet in the first place. I am one of those people, and I just backed their Kickstarter because from what I've seen so far, Toolcraft does an awesome job providing a ton of useful and fun answers to what is this toolkit for in a way that sits lightly on top of 5e, but you could also develop whole adventures around gaining various recipes and ingredients for a crafting themed campaign. I'm thinking about using it to help me turn player character downtime into more of a mini game, to add another layer to my D&D and stretch out the narrative so we don't go from level 1 to 12 in a few weeks of game time. You could also just loot this book for creative magic items, of course, but I know most of my players are going to be pumped when their characters find fishing tackle or tattoo supplies and can actually create cool stuff in game with them. There's 350 recipes in there to start, and they're fully funded and knocking on the door of stretch goals, so there will likely be more in here before they are done. Check it out. Link below. Another way to drop in a minigame and have it really feel distinct is to put the dice down and pick up a pack of playing cards. My buddy Steve ran us through Rangers of Shadowdeep the other night, which was a ton of fun. And at least in the scenario he was running, he pull a card. Actually, we would pull the card at the end of each round, and it would trigger an event. And it was interesting how different the mechanic felt because we weren't rolling dice about it. And I've been thinking about more ways we can integrate cards into game night for a while now. And in a flash of synchronicity, our friends over at Mystic Dragon Games are coming out with some epic dragon-themed playing cards. You may have seen me talk about their Forged in Shadows and Mobius deck of magic items, links to that, but they've launched just now the Solterra Convergence of Dragons, and the art looks awesome. 4 different decks, each with 4 different fantasy ancestries on the court cards, and dragons on the aces, 2 metallic, 2 chromatic, jokers, and the backs are the same, so you can mix and match them all. I just backed these Solterra cards on Kickstarter as well this very morning. I'd be happy playing some poker or blackjack with these, whether it's in a game at a tavern or just, in the real world. But imagine pulling these beauties out in a D&D game to trigger random events or determine items in a treasure chest, or any situation that you would roll dice to determine an outcome, really. This is one of those tools that can inspire you to find new ways to use it, and I could totally see myself coming up with mini games to get more use out of them in my TTRPGs sessions. More on that soon, but it looks like I don't really have to unless I want to, because included for free when you back the Kickstarter, there's going to be rule sets for 8 different games. Check this out. Some of them are for gambling, sure, but there's combat, a dungeon crawl, and one-player solo dungeon crawl, and a few duels, including a tower defense game called Wizard's Ascent. Go check these out. Link below. Another great way to utilize mini-games and subsystems is in between sessions. If we're handling downtime, be it crafting, card games at the tavern, or just gamifying our prep work a little bit, we can spread game night out to last all week. Doesn't that sound nice? That's actually the secret of game masters everywhere. We are always playing. My latest project is designed to help make that more true for more people and make it all matter for game night in the process. That's right, it's the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation. I've run a couple session zeros lately as I'm setting up to run the Lost Mine of Phandelver again and dive into the Shattered Obelisk, and we used the playtest material to flesh out the characters at 2 different tables and to do some collaborative world building together. It was super fun. I felt like it turned the whole experience into a mini game, a lot of rolling for stats, but there are no bad results that can weaken a character, and it's going to make the whole campaign way better. Dungeon Master Prep can feel like a minigame as well when you're doing it right, and I am finding it feels way more entertaining working off the GM's CXC to connect NPCs and factions to Phandalin and below. And it's not just me, we've done some live streams together and had a blast with dice rolls and ideas coming in from the chat. We've also had a handful of other experienced game masters rolling dice on this playtest material and having a really good time doing it. I made a playlist if you want to check them out. There's a couple quick overviews and then some deep dives, and it's interesting to see how everyone brings their own creativity to it and makes it their own. That was the idea in the first place, and it's cool to see it happening. If you want in on that playlist, or you just want to mess around with this cool new set of tools, check out the link below if you haven't already, because there's a big old sample you can download for free from the Kickstarter page right now, so you can play with the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation tonight. I want to hear from you out there about other mini games, subsystems, pieces of other TTRPG systems you've used or thinking of experimenting with. If you've messed around with Dungeon Coach's DC-20 or Shadow Dark, or recently back to Kickstarter, pulled chunks from old editions, or maybe just, made up your own little rule sets for certain elements of play, please let us know in the comments. This is a community, and the more ideas getting shared, the better. And with that in mind, to share one more resource, an inspiring set of ideas, James Heck just hit YouTube and will undoubtedly be blowing up soon. He's got an impressive resume, has worked with some heavy hitters on some cool projects, but the opening video and premise for his whole channel is all game masters are game designers. It's a great thesis and an awesome reminder, especially if you just watched through this one and aren't so sure about trying some new subsystem or interesting, mini game in your session. Check that one out here. And everything else I mentioned, down in the comments below. We are in the back half of the Kickstarter when this goes up, and we are knocking back stretch goals, making the compendium bigger and better. Thanks for watching and for all of the continuous support. Be kind and have fun.